Hey everyone, welcome to Life Design Diaries. We're on a pursuit to live a fulfilling life completely on our own terms. We share our thoughts and experiences to help inspire you if you're pursuing the same thing.
In this podcast, we cover thought-provoking topics that help develop a happy and balanced life, and we'd love for you to join us each week. This episode is brought to you by TETTA. That's TETTA, and it's one of Lucy's very own companies. And jointly, we are extremely proud and excited to bring you this landmark episode, as TETTA also has a big announcement this week for a huge milestone they've achieved. Having achieved a successful Kickstarter campaign last year, this week TETTA have now fulfilled all 500 backer orders, consisting of over 7,000 hand-stitched tassels. TETTA is a clothing brand, t-shirts, sweatshirts and earrings that all include tassels in some shape or form. Having experienced cancer in the family last year, Lucy decided to start TETTA alongside her cousin Georgia as a way to raise awareness and create a positive outcome to such a horrific and challenging situation. Yes, the clothes look great, but the real beauty in the brand is the impact that they're making to people's lives. A portion of TETTA's tassels are handmade by people who have been touched in any way by cancer. These are people with cancer currently, have survived cancer, or are just wanting to support the cause regardless. Making tassels is a therapeutic achievement, and so far TETTA has brought together over 50 people and growing who are willing and proud to support the cause and raise awareness. TETTA wants you to check your tettas, which is your breasts in Italian, to spot any indication of cancer early on and help prevent it. And yes, that means us guys too. To celebrate this huge milestone, TETTA is having a 20% sale on all their products. So head over to TETTA, that's TETTA.co.uk now and take a look.
Happy Monday, everybody. We hope you're going to have a good week. We're bringing you quite a big episode today. What's the title of this one, Ross?
We've been looking forward to sharing. Lessons learnt travelling the world.
Yeah, so as we're coming to the end of the first just over 6 months travelling, as we are heading back to the UK in less than 2 weeks for a short amount of time to go to some weddings and to touch base, we've kind of found ourselves in a bit of a reflective mood, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely.
So we wanted to kind of go through the last 6 months in regards to how some of the experiences that we've had has made a big impact on our lives, and kind of like how it's going to help us shape the next 6 months for the rest of 2018.
Yeah, definitely. So that if you're listening to this, you can then, take what we've learned and apply them to your own life. And I mean, we've been in the last 6 months, we've covered quite a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So we've been in, as a slight recap, we've covered 14 countries and we've done some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, so lots of things that we've never done before, like ridden a tuk-tuk, or you've driven a tuk-tuk rather.
Yeah, we've seen elephants in the wild, which is
dolphins
pretty great.
as well.
What else have we done? We've just stayed in locals. We've been taken to a local's house and introduced to all of his family.
Hiked mountains and loads of different things.
Had many accidents. We've had one big accident in Bali.
But been in a few hairy situations, haven't we? Which have been interesting. So we wanted to run through kind of 4 points, which have been the most important or the biggest ones that have come to the front of our minds for the both of us. And hopefully they might help you in your own life.
Yeah, definitely, because traveling the world and getting a fresh perspective, a global perspective, I would say, by just seeing all of these different countries has taught us things that we wouldn't have thought when we first left.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that's fair to say. And also just that perspective, I think it's very hard to replicate unless you've actually been and traveled. Because I think a lot of it's stuff that you probably are aware of, and we see so much stuff on TV now that you can kind of feel like what's going on in different countries. But until we've actually been there, we've not kind of, we've not been able to experience it.
Yeah, I've not been able to. I think
really
a couple of these points you're going to be like, well, duh, but how they actually impact how you're living, I think, is very different. And obviously, we're not the only people that have been traveling. So if you've got some life lessons that you have come away with that have really changed how you've carried on with the rest of your life, we'd absolutely love to hear from you. So please drop us a line or pop us a comment on our Instagram. Because we'd really love to hear what other people have to say, whether you agree or disagree or have things to add.
So let's get into it. The first life lesson that we've learned as we've been traveling the world is that life is about experiences and relationships, much more than possessions.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we had sold probably 90% of everything before we came traveling, and we didn't have to, but we took quite a bold decision there, didn't we?
Yeah.
And sell it. We've got some stuff in storage, but most of it's gone.
Yeah.
Our
car's gone.
Spock.
Yeah.
Spock came in handy. So the fact that we've kind of got rid of so much stuff and lived a pretty minimal life has taught us a lot about actually that you don't need that much.
Yeah. And living minimally, we've spoken about this before in previous podcasts, but it's been so liberating, and it's given us so much more headspace and taken away a lot of pressure in terms of choice and what to do with your cash. And it's been really, really liberating, hasn't it?
Yeah, and there's so much benefits, because of course it saves you money because you're not buying and consuming as many things.
Yeah.
And also there's just a huge global impact with consuming less.
Yeah.
It's so well documented now how as a worldwide economy we are using and consuming too much stuff, too much food, too much everything. So by kind of putting yourself, or for us putting ourselves in the minimalists bracket, I think that's just good for the world all round, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And like you said, the other benefit is that it saves you money, and it just gives you loads of headspace, because you no longer worry about the kind of all of the getting head up on all the status things that you may do.
Yeah, keeping up with the Joneses
exactly.
And maintaining and inflating your ego. Yeah, definitely. So I think coming back to the original, the first line of the point is also about relationships. And I think that we have, although we've had each other, which has been wonderful, and I can't imagine what it must be like to travel extensively on your own without, having your tribe with you. But it really, really has made us realize just how much your friends and family mean to you. Like they really, really mean so much. And neither of us have been away from our families and friends for this long, have we? No. So it's been really wonderful to keep in touch in different ways and actually spend time really thinking about those people and telling them, hey, I've just spent the last hour thinking about you. Or
yeah, it's funny because once you're away from your friends for so long, you suddenly start thinking about all of and it normally is the kind of small things like going for a drink on a random Wednesday night after work or something. Yeah. It's like those kind of small...
Or also seeing something happen and really wanting to share it with your mum or your dad, or do you know what I mean? It's been really really nice to kind of strip away all of the grudges or things that you've been kind of caught up with before, and just really go back to just the love and respect and the relationships that you really cherish, and just really want to not work on them, but just give them time, proper quality time as well. Phones down, really in the moment time.
Be present.
Yeah, definitely.
So how will you apply that then?
Well,
in the next 6 months?
We are going back. So about 6 years ago, we left our hometown, which is in the southwest of the UK, and moved up to Manchester, which is about 4 or 5 hours drive. So we haven't actually lived in our hometown for a very long time, and it's changed quite a lot since then. So we are going back to our hometown our very small hometown, which before probably would have had me running for the hills because, you know, when you think about your hometown, I don't know about you, but it can be a little bit begrudging. But I just feel completely relieved of all of those feelings, and I just can't wait to get back home and get back to know it and like really, really not take it for granted. You know,
all the people that are close to you, and also like not hold any grudges. You know, it's important to life's short, and so by understanding that experiences and relationships are kind of like so important within life, there's just no point, is there, in holding any grudges or any. You know, if there's people that we're probably, as we're going back to hometown, going to get back in contact with some people that we haven't spoken to in years. And we've got no problems doing that, reaching out and kind of sticking our neck out,
saying hello.
Yeah, exactly. Because you just kind of learnt that, you know, if you were friends before and then you're not now, then you might as well go again. Yeah,
I think like people fall in and out with each other. You know, you kind of go into ebbs and flows with some people. And like at a point in my life, obviously, I felt a bit like annoyed about the situation or whatever. But it's something you said to me a couple of months ago, which was, you know, it doesn't matter. Just wish that person well and it will come back round. You know, just being kind to everybody has definitely been another thing that kind of goes in with this, around the people and nurturing relationships and just being kind to people.
Yeah, exactly. So
we're really, really looking forward to going back to Melksham in Wiltshire and spending some really good quality time with our family and our friends and meeting our new niece, which we can't wait to do. So the second life lesson of traveling the world is around how good we have it in the West, really. Some of the places and some of the people and some of the homes that we've stayed in have been, you know, not as developed as some of our lives at home. And you would think that those people would be unhappy. But really, there isn't a correlation between how good we have it in the West and how happy those people are in the East and some of the people that we've met. Because I've met the happiest, most grateful people ever.
I think you can't go traveling in the East, see all of these things without feeling a huge sense of gratitude for just how good we've got it in the West. But like you say, the main lesson there is there's been no correlation that we've seen between the people that we've met in the East who are poorer than the West and happiness.
Yeah.
Those people that we've met, certainly our experience, have been extremely happy, very content with their situation. And also just, you know, you kind of could think that possessions, a bit like the first point really, possessions equals happiness and status and stuff. But it's so fascinating when you start to understand different cultures in the East. So for example, in Bali, the culture and the tradition there is that you grow up and then you live in the same home that you grew up in. So you live with your parents. And sometimes that means living in that house. Sometimes that means building a separate house in the garden if they have land. But you live in the same place. And it just makes you think that so many people, probably I would say most people, certainly in the West, pretty much work all of their life for one key goal of living in a grand house. Like that's what a lot of people want, is they want a huge house, they want a big house, they want a nice house. It's going to cost money, so they need to work and save. And it's kind of like life's work is a big house. But imagine if you had that change in perspective, change in culture, just like they have in the East, that all of a sudden you are going to live in your family house. It's kind of really, really de-stressing of all of those complications, because it's just way simpler. It's just a nice method that is followed, and a nice culture. So I think that just kind of illustrates that being privileged enough to be born in the West and have the ability to buy and earn a lot of money and buy things like nice houses, you would naturally think that leads to happiness. However, it doesn't, because there's a lot of benefits that come with that headspace that we've seen in the East.
With that like simple thinking.
Yeah, and just like the cultural differences.
Yeah. So I think in terms of us going back home for a bit and then deciding wherever we go next, we definitely are still going to keep it minimal, keep it lean, and just really enjoy those little things, like being able to pop to the shop and get some of the things that you want easily.
Yeah, definitely food, like
fruit and vegetables.
All of the food that's at our disposals in supermarkets in England.
Yeah.
It's crazy because we've struggled to find those things in so many different countries. So in terms of how we apply this lesson to our next 6 months, definitely we're going to
just not take things for granted that we can get our hands on.
Okay, so the third life lesson since traveling the world is that failure is fine, life is short, and really, what is there to lose? And what we mean by this is that you are only really confined and restricted, and we were only confined and restricted by our current situation. But at the time, it feels much, much bigger than when you take a step away from it. And so for us, having this time completely away, just by ourselves, and just experiencing all of these new things, it's made us think back to when we kind of, I guess, thought that was a huge step, and thought that by taking such a leap of faith or a move away from whatever that is, it could be if you're looking now to move away from a relationship or a job or something that you think is a really big step at the moment. But when you've done that and you're kind of 6 months, a year down the line, and like we are, because we've been able to have this time away, you can really see that actually life is short. And if you want to do something like that, what is there really to lose? You can go straight back.
Yeah, I think that this is going to help us in terms of being a digital nomad whilst trying to grow the businesses that we are running at the moment has been quite tricky in terms of like focus and consistency and being able to get our hands on things and getting things done quickly. So I think this is going to help us just go for it and really get our teeth into the things that we're working on when we're back, and kind of be quite unapologetic with the decisions that we make. So make them quickly, not dwelling on it too much. And yeah, kind of just once you realize that failure isn't a problem and life is too short, it's really liberating. And you know, if you're considering going traveling, for example, it's not actually that big a deal when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. So you should just go for it because you'll learn so much on the way. It's not, I kind of disagree with what you say there about you can always go back, because I think a lot of people won't. Yeah, that's kind of like
I don't think you will. No, exactly.
I think it's just
you won't want to.
a thing that you can think. You know, if you're trying to get out of a relationship, you definitely don't want to go back. But yeah, I just think it's a totally liberating thing that we've both realised, that you should just go for it, and there's always an answer if things go Pete Tong, and at the end of the day you're just going to learn. Okay, and then the fourth and final point to lessons learned whilst travelling the world. This is kind of an overarching one, I think, that we both really, really agreed with. And it's about how happiness is absolutely from within. It can't be found externally. And no matter which country we've been in, where we've stayed, who we've met, none of those things have really had like a fundamental impact on how we feel and how happy we are and how much joy we've received. It's all been to do with how we're feeling within ourselves at that one time. I mean, even with each other, you know, you can keep each other up as kind of as good as you can, but actually it just all comes from within. And I think we've definitely taken all of those points on board around happiness isn't found for me at the bottom of a H&M bag or at the end of a chocolate brownie or whatever. It's all literally like fleeting feelings that go. So you should definitely work on the points that make you feel happy consistently. So
yeah, and I think that's been brought to light with the kind of exposure that we've had to different religions as we've traveled. Like there's been a very religious experience as well. I wouldn't say neither of us are really religious. However,
not religious at all.
Just by seeing how other people approach it, and this kind of topic of happiness is very present, of course, in every religion. And so, yeah, you just see that it is within. It starts with people taking accountability for themselves. And I think we all know someone or could think about someone that thinks the grass is greener on the other side always. Like always in search for something. Like whether that's I'll just get a pay rise, or I'll just get a new job, or I'll just go
lose
traveling.
£10.
Or I'll just go, and then it'll be okay. And it's kind of like that constant searching for something else, which is just around the corner, and then things will be fine. Then they'll be content. Then they'll be happy. But we've learned that moving around has absolutely no effect on that at all. And just by seeing different cultures and kind of studying the people that we've met, like you said, happiness comes from within, definitely not external.
Yeah. I think also like kind of having some time just to ourselves as well has helped us like reflect on what does make us happy, and like being a bit really looking internally around like growing a bit of self-love, I suppose. Like neither of us have particularly lost a load of weight or done anything particularly miraculous, but I do think that we are going to be flying back home with a lot more kind of self-respect for ourselves. I don't know about you, and I don't like the word, but more self-love. I think that's a really fluffy thing.
I would say the traveling experience gives you a deeper understanding of what you want in life. That's what I would say is better.
Do you know, that's been like probably the most profound, unexpected things for me, because I definitely left the UK not expecting to go on such a journey, and it's so cliche, I know, that people come back from traveling and they've gone away and they've found themselves, but I totally left like, oh yeah, I got it now, just gonna go and experience some things, meet some new people, go and lie on a beach for a bit. But actually it's been a much deeper experience than that for me.
Yeah, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think that is born out of the challenges that we're faced whilst doing this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely deal with a big spider now.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of to round it up, we have really, really enjoyed the last 6 months, and we're going to take all of these points on board and try and really continue living them, even when we're back in the UK for a little bit, although our feet aren't going to be on the ground for too long before we're into Europe. Yeah. So any kind of hints or tips that people have found after they've gone travelling and how they keep these points top of mind, we'd really, really be grateful. And we really hope you've enjoyed this one, because we've really enjoyed kind of reflecting on the points and putting them together and trying to make them tangible for us to continue living.